Alright guys, here we go. This is the last lesson you will learn in Algebra 1 this year. Congratulations. You have made it. So, focus in. Focus. It's not going to take us very long. So, let's get started. This is 10.4 radical equations. So, what this means is that now we are going to be solving. Did I spell that right? Yeah, we're going to solve for variables when there's a square root in our equation. Step number 1. Step 1, always isolate the radical on one side of the equation. What does that mean? That means get the square root by itself. I want the square root on one side and everything else on the other. Okay? That's what I mean. So let's look at example 1 first, and then we'll come back to step 2. So step 1, get everything away from the square root. Square root needs to be by itself. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite this here. So I have 16 equals the square root of x divided by 2. Well, I need what by itself? Square root, right? I need the square root by itself. So how do I get rid of that 2 underneath? Multiply. Multiply 2 by both sides. Good. So your 2's cancel. And now I have 32 equals the square root of x. One more step. Alright, step 1 is done. The square root is by itself. Everything else is on the other side. Okay? Step 2. Square each side of the equation to eliminate the radical. So if you have a square root of x and you square it, what that does is it cancels the square root and the square out, and you're just left with x. So in order to get x away from the square root, in order to eliminate the radical, we need to square both sides, because what we do to one side, we have to do to both. So now, the square root of x squared just becomes x. Because when we square a square root, it just eliminates. 1024, and so Justin did 32 squared in his calculator, and it was 1024, and that's it. Okay. So, for example 2, step 1, get everything away from the radical. Well, what's my radical? Anything that's under the square root. Yeah, anything that's under the square root. So if it's not highlighted, I need it to be on the other side. So I need to move 2. But right now 2 is positive. So to move 2, I need to subtract 2 from both sides. So now I'm left with the square root of 4x minus 7 equals 5. So all I've done is isolate the radical. Now let's eliminate it by squaring both sides. Do not square what's inside a square root. It doesn't get in. It doesn't even allow the square to go in the square root, because before it can, it cancels out. So now we have 4x minus 7 equals 5 squared is 25. And now this is just a quiz on, or not a quiz, but remember your quiz on Friday? This is just solving equations. So add 7 to both sides. And 32. Divide both sides by 4. So x is equal to 8. Yes. Callie. That's all there is to it. So if you look at number 1, is the radical by itself? Yes. So step 2, square both sides so it cancels the square root out. And a is equal to 8 squared, which is 64. Yes. 2. I'm I'm so sorry. Why are you being so rude? Number 2, get the radical by itself. Right now, 6 is positive, so to get it away, you need to subtract it from both sides. So you get the square root of a is equal to 26. In order to get the radical to eliminate, you have to square both sides. So a is equal to, what's 26 squared? 676? Okay, number 3. The x is not by itself. So what do I do first? Yep, divide. Okay, so after you divide, I want you to finish this problem, and then I want you to go through 6, and then stop. Go through 6 and stop. Here we go. Let's check our answers, please. So, number 4. Number 4. A lot of you got confused because the square root is on this side, but it's not just a variable. That's okay. I just need the square root by itself. So, if the square root is by itself, then square both sides. You now have 49 equals 26 minus n. To solve for n, you need to subtract 26 from both sides. So 49 minus 26. You now have 23 equals negative n. Divide both sides by negative 1, and n is equal to 23. Yeah. Negative 23. All right. The square root's by itself. So square both sides. You now have negative a equals 36. Well, when you divide negative 1 by both sides, you get a is equal to negative 36. All right. 6. The square root is by itself. So let's square both sides. And now you have 3r squared is equal to 9. Well, divide both sides by 3. So you have r squared is equal to 3. Just like you can square a square root for it to eliminate, that works backwards. So if I need to eliminate a square, I take the square root of both sides. So r, when I took the square root of a square, it eliminates. So r is equal to the square root of 3. I just taught you. You're getting a little sassy for your pants there, Ethan. All right, number 7. Number 7. There are square roots on both sides. Since there's square root on both sides, I can't get a square root by itself on one side because they're on both sides. So what you need to do is just go ahead and take the square of both sides. Kyle, will you open the door, please?